Emily. I want to talk to you guys today about vermicomposting and how important it is to help your soil and your garden, and it helps eliminate waste that can end up in the landfill. People can do this at their home, at school, with their 4-H clubs or FFA, and it's a really cool activity. We do this with upper elementary students at the IQhub, and I wanted to show you guys how you can do this fun activity at home and learn more about vermicomposting with your family. Okay, so the first thing we need to go over is soil. A lot of people use the word dirt. Dirt and soil are like the same thing, but if you want to be scientific, the particles in soil make up what is going to be the biggest part of your garden. And so here today, I have some sand to show you, just like beach sand. You can see the individual grains. Silt. Silt is kind of the middle size particle, a little fluffy. When I say fluffy, I mean dusty, powdery. And then the last one is clay. Clay is the smallest particle, and when it gets together with the other particles, it makes these big clumps. So if I were gardening and I had to pick between sand, silt, and clay, it would be really hard to figure out which type of soil, which soil particle is going to be best for my garden. I would want a mixture of all three. And if I didn't have a choice, that's where my compost comes in. So if you were gardening, I got some jars here to show you, and you had this type of soil, you might be wondering, why are they in jars? We put the soil in a jar, fill it up with water so you can see the layers, and the layers represent the sand, silt, and clay, which are the particles. So this one, this first jar, is a lot of sand in it. It's very light in color, you can see the grains, not very many layers. The second jar is very dark, this one has a lot of clay in it, hard to see the layers of that one as well. This is a different site that we took the samples from, filled the jars up with water, and you can still see the light and the dark kind of shows sand and clay. Those are very common here in Michigan. But like I said, I want a mixture of all three to make the best garden. So these jars, they're kind of hard to tell. Maybe you can zoom in close or make some of your own jars at home, because if you put a little bit of soil in there with some water, shake it up and let it settle, if you have 3 layers, sand, silt, and clay, that's a pretty good start to a garden. But like I said, most people don't have all 3 layers. It's not ideal, so compost is the best way to go. And vermicomposting, or composting your fruit and veggies with worms, is the best thing to do to help your garden. So this is the compost bin that we use at the IQhub. There's several layers that go on top of this base, and each layer is pretty much a box that has like a mesh wire or netting below it, and this is so the worms can move up between the layers of the box. Currently we only have one box we're using, so it's all right. This is a layer of screen on the base of the vermicomposting bin so that none of the worms fall out of the actual bin. And below it is just a little Tupperware container to catch the worm castings, or if there's too much water that comes out through the compost bin, they call it worm tea. So this is a good idea to have a bucket in the bottom, some screen above it, and then some kind of a container with holes in it. These are obviously a lot, but you could use a Tupperware container or a 5-gallon bucket, something that has holes in it. When you're making your composting bin, you're going to put your soil in here, and what I have in this bucket is peat moss, and this is a good thing to mix in so your soil doesn't get too wet, too dry. It helps keep it a little more consistent for the worms. And then this is shredded up newspaper, and this can go on top as well. So if you look a little closer over here, this is the finished layer of the compost bin. And this is just one tray. Like I said, you can stack a bunch of these on top of each other. But inside here, if I move the shredded newspaper, and you see the peat moss mixed with the soil, are worms.
How can we get out there?
These are little red wigglers. They're not going to get out. And if you are worried about your red wigglers escaping, you can actually put a lid on top. This is just a piece of board that can work for a lid. They're not fans of light, so they're wiggling around because they want to be covered up. But when you feed your worms, you would kind of dig a little bit, make a little hole, you put your fruit and veggies inside, and then you cover up with some soil. Make sure you put your newspaper clippings on top, and this is what the finished bin would look like when I put it on top and set the lid on it. So that's just a wooden version. You can have, oh, it could be plastic, could use a wooden bucket, anything. But this is kind of what we're using right now at the IQhub. Hello everyone, this is Randy and Savannah helping us today with our vermicomposting activity. We're making dirt cups. And so these are the activity materials. You guys are going to need some kind of cups. These are plastic ones that we are using. They're 9-ounce cups. Little plastic spoons, chocolate pudding, crushed Oreos. We have fruit snacks. You can use any kind that will work. We have sprinkles. This is a gold and a blue that we're going to be using today. But really you need a blue for water. The other color can be whatever you want it to be. We're just going to pretend that these are the layers going into our dirt cups like a vermicomposting bin. Oh, don't forget gummy worms too. So the first thing these guys have in front of them is an empty cup. And if you guys are doing a real vermicomposting bin, you would have to drill holes in the bottom of your cup and put a screen down so that none of your worms get out, but the water can escape. But we don't want to drill holes in our cup because, like I said, we're putting pudding, Oreos, things that will fall out. So pretend like the hole's already there. So the first thing you would do for your vermicomposting bin, you ready, Randy?
Yeah.
Is you're going to put your fruit snacks in. The fruit snacks are going to represent fruits and veggies. So these guys are going to rip open their fruit snacks and dump them in their cup.
Put them in your cup, quick.
So the worms that we're using, guys, are red wigglers, and they are vegetarians. So they can't eat meat, bread, milk, anything like that. It's just going to be fruits and veggies. So that's what these fruit snacks are going to be, is the fruits and veggies. All right, the next thing you guys need, you got to put it on your table, Randy, so you can do it. The next thing you guys need is some pudding and some Oreos. These are the 2 types of soil, so listen before we put it in. Worms have no teeth. Did you know that?
Yeah.
So if they have no teeth, Randy, how do they chew their food?
They just go around it and eat it.
But they have no teeth. So what do they do, Savannah?
They just drill. They eat like smushy stuff.
True.
Try to eat it.
Yes. So if you guys were going to put real worms in a bin, you'd want to chop up the food for them to help. But smushy, we don't want rotten, okay? So actually worms will eat some soil. They eat gritty soil to help grind up their food inside their stomachs. They have a spot called a gizzard. So you guys need to put a couple spoonfuls of Oreos into your cup on top of your fruits and veggies. And this will be like the gritty soil. That's going to be what the worms need to grind their food.
Put them in there.
A couple spoonfuls, Rand. So you guys, when you're making these cups at home, can put as much or as little of these layers as you want in. We're just going to put a couple spoonfuls so you can have the layer represented, but really it's up to you. You good, Rand?
Okay, that's
So
good.
that's the gritty soil to help the
Let
worms
Nana get one
grind
more.
up the food in their gizzard because they don't have teeth. So the next thing we're going to put in our vermicomposting bin is going to be pudding, and this represents smooth soil. Worms need smooth soil so they can get around. Bless you. So like we have the gritty soil for the food, they need the smooth soil so they can get around. So a couple spoonfuls of this is going to represent the smooth soil.
Wait, brought that, sorry.
You're good. Okay, so Savannah's got a couple spoonfuls of pudding in there, and hopefully you guys are seeing the layers. So we got the fruit in the bottom, and then the gritty soil. Oh, you're helping
Randy,
him?
look at yum.
Thank you. And like I said, you can put as much or as little of these layers as you want, just so that it represents them. This is the 2 types of soil that you need for your worm bin.
Here,
And
put
so
it-
most
you
people
put a
are
scoop.
saying, well, how do I know what's gritty and how do I know what's smooth? In our other video that we showed you, the gritty soil usually is more sandy, and smooth soil would probably be a little more silt.
That's good. That's
If
good.
you
Put
use
it down.
clay, it could harden or get too rough for these poor worms to get through, because when clay hardens, it becomes like a rock. All right, so that's our next layer. So then if you have worms in this bin, pretend like this is a real bin, right?
This one.
You need to add a little bit of water, because these worms need to be able to have a little drink and keep their skin moist. So Savannah, just a little sprinkle. The blue sprinkles is show water. It's better to put just a little bit of water in your bins than too much.
Oh. Oh.
So just a little sprinkle. Will you do his, please? Because I think he's busy.
Whoa,
Rand-
whoa, whoa, whoa.
Yeah, not too much water. Worms can't swim, right?
Yeah, they
And
die.
that's why you guys see them all come on the sidewalks when it rains, because they can't breathe, they can't swim, the water is filling up the soil pores, it's saturated. They come to the sidewalk for air. All right, so these gold ones today are going to represent like dried leaves or things from your yard, because when you're done making your bin, you have to cover it with something. And most people put grass clippings, leaves, something on top. I guess you could put like a burlap sack or something, or a lid if you'd like. But those things could cost money to build a lid or to buy a burlap sack. So some people just put the leaves on top. So that's kind of what your bin should look like with your layers. And then these two worms are going to represent happy worms in your compost bin once you've done all the steps and put them in there. So put your little worms in your bins. Put your worms in there, Randy. And you guys probably will notice the next time you get some gummy worms that they always, on these gummy worms, these candies, they put eyes on the worms. And worms really don't have eyes. Have you ever noticed that? Heck, most people can't figure out where's the head and where's the tail. So there's no eyes on the worms, but they put them on the candy just for something fun. So this is your compost bin, guys. And if it was real life, you would stir it gently each week. Stir it gently, please. And you stir it gently to make sure your worms are still alive, to make sure they have enough food, enough water, and you gently stir it each week because you don't want the worms to get hurt by your spoon or your shovel or whatever you're using. So every week you might have to add food or water. I don't know, is it stirred good?
Yeah.
And then usually about a
Worms on
month
the
your
bottom
compost is ready. You guys can dry your compost and sell it. Did you know people have compost businesses?
No.
Some of them sell worms for business or sell compost. So let's pretend like our month is done. The compost is ready. Do you want to try just a spoonful? We haven't had dinner yet.
Yeah.
What do you think, Randy? You got enough pudding off the table?
Yeah.
You don't want your compost bin? You don't want to try it?
I'll try mine.
Try it. Get the Oreos. The cookies are yummy. How is it? Thumbs up?
Good.
So hopefully everybody gets to try this at home and has some fun and learns about the layers of a compost bin. This activity is, like I said, something fun to learn the layers, but maybe you guys will have a real bin at your house.
No, no.
Okay, say bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.